So I just left the State of the Union. I got to say it was a disappointing speech. It was angry, it was divisive, it was fundamentally dishonest. Joe Biden stood up there and sounded like an angry man on his front lawn yelling, "Get off my lawn." He refused to take responsibility for the policy failures of this administration, refused to take responsibility for rampaging inflation, for out-of-control crime, for the chaos at the southern border. He had the gall to say, quote, "Support my plan to secure the southern border," when it's his policies that have created open borders and have resulted in the worst illegal immigration in our nation's history and the most overdoses in our nation's history. You know, this speech could have been an opportunity for Biden to reach out to the new Republican majority to acknowledge that more than two-thirds of Americans recognize we're on the wrong path. But tonight, Joe Biden indicated he doesn't care what the American voters think. He's going to double down on failed policies despite the harm they're causing. This was a disappointing speech. It was an angry speech. It was a divisive speech.
Good morning. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Glad everybody could get together this morning to talk about a little bit of the problems that small businesses have been having over the last years. I want to thank the university and Dean Schaefer for allowing us to use the facilities here at the Gatton College of Business and University of Kentucky. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. I became the ranking member of the Small Business Committee this year, and in that role, our job is to advocate for small businesses across the country. And I think part of that is listening, to what kind of troubles that you guys have been having. We're acutely aware of the devastating impact that COVID lockdowns have had on small businesses and families. Instead of what was originally said 15 days to slow the virus, these lockdowns became protracted and on and on and on, and to some extent they still continue. Larger businesses were often deemed essential and got to escape the restrictions, but the small business community was told, do it or else, basically. Certain industries locked down completely, and this has caused sort of a ripple effect throughout supply chains. Washington's spending problem has also contributed to this, causing the cost of goods and supplies to skyrocket in some industries. While local officials continue to keep many of the large businesses open, schools throughout the country, including here in Kentucky, are still not fully operational. This has created many obstacles for working parents and families as they try to make ends meet. The science is clear, though, that children are at minimal risk for the disease and not super spreaders. In fact, when you look at transmission studies in several different countries, you find that the children aren't really spreading the disease. Most of the countries in Europe have kept their schools open throughout. Some of them closed down for a month or so last year and were back open by May and June and have been operating continuously. We've had some private schools in both the Lexington area and in Louisville area and in northern Kentucky and up in the Ashland area that were open throughout, never had any super spreading events, and had really no diagnosed illnesses at school. I've always asserted that these Orwellian lockdowns have severe consequences. We will experience the impact of these lockdowns on our economy and damage to our children for years to come. Now, as vaccine distribution and new therapeutics are widely available, it's imperative that we fully reopen. The question has now become, why are those in power continuing to assert control over people's livelihoods and our children's future? As I've said before, Florida is open, Texas is open, neighboring Tennessee has repealed their mandates. Even New York, the king of lockdowns in New York, even New York has set a firm date to reopen. And yet we still don't have a firm date in Kentucky to reopen. To make matters worse, in our state, the state legislature has said that these edicts from the governor should expire. They passed a law. Now the governor openly is defying that law, suing in court, saying he's not subject to the state legislature. This is a very, very dangerous sign when you have a governor that will resist the will of the popularly elected people. It's in court now. But this is very, very dangerous to our state and to the constitutional aspect of our state to have a governor that's acting beyond the authority of the state legislature and in defiance of the state legislature. I hope we get this sorted out very soon. I look forward to our discussion today on the challenges facing businesses and families. We have a stenographer here who will record all this. This will be made an official transcript of the committee, and hopefully people will learn from this and take to heart the different problems that each of you have had in your businesses. This is a great panel, and I think it'll be quite interesting to hear from each of you. I'm going to introduce one at a time, and I think what we'll do is
Dean Schaefer is going to, the Dean of the school is going to say the welcoming remarks.
okay. And actually, I've been told that Dean Schaefer would like to say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Simon Sheether, and I'm proud to say I'm the Dean of the Gatton College of Business and Economics here at the University of Kentucky. On behalf of the University of Kentucky, we welcome Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky to the University and to our magnificent facility here at the University. Senator Paul, we appreciate your leadership and your focus on Kentucky first. There's no better time to inspire creativity and entrepreneurship in our small business owners than now. We appreciate all the business leaders in attendance today, including Gatton alum Kaylin Query, the founder and president of Lexington Event Company, and Dawn Perkins, the general manager of the Team Spirit Shop. I'm pleased to briefly report on the success of the Gatton College and the University of Kentucky in dealing with the pandemic. For example, in spring 2020, our college was able to move over 215 in-person course sections totaling 35,000 student credit hours to fully online in a matter of just 10 days in mid-semester. In fall 2020, we delivered courses in a number of different modes. 15% were completely in-person classes, 40% of our classes used technology to provide a highly interactive environment that mixed in-person and online. 30% of our classes were online with synchronous class meetings, and 15% of the classes were too large to offer in-person or via Zoom and were done online asynchronously. I'm proud to report our faculty has done important research regarding COVID-19 that helped both on a local and a national level. A couple of highlights. One study showed how businesses should respond to the crisis with both speed and agility, as well as our economists studied the effectiveness of social distancing at the start of the pandemic. In February, the Gatton College hosted the 11th Annual Supply Chain Forum. With over 200 attendees, we brought together national calibre supply chain leaders who are practitioners, academics and consultants. The forum allowed businesses to share their supply chain initiatives, especially related to the theme of thriving in disruption. Last month, the college hosted a conference on business innovation and entrepreneurship. 3 Gatton College alumni who are now successful small business entrepreneurs spoke on the first day of the conference. On the second day of the conference, 22 teams pitched new business ideas. 12 undergraduate teams, 5 graduate teams and 5 non-profits. Over $20,000 in prize money was awarded. The graduate division winner is an engineering graduate student who had previously completed the Gatton College Entrepreneurs Boot Camp, something we offer every semester. Next weekend, I personally look forward to being part of 2 important commencement ceremonies for the Gatton College. It'll be great to have that back in person. Thank you for your attendance today. Over to you, Senator.
Thank you, Dean Sheether. I think what we'll do is, rather than do all the introductions at once, why don't we do introductions one by one and then hear from each individual after the introduction. So Alan Hinks, why don't we start with Alan first. Alan Hinks is the owner of Dundee Tavern in Louisville. Mr. Hinks has owned and operated Dundee Tavern for 6 years. He's worked in the hospitality industry for over 30 years, including a decade at Captain's Quarters, Riverside Grill, and O'Charlie's Restaurant and Bar. Mr. Hinks, why don't you start us off, and if you can limit your testimony to about 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm glad to be here, and thank you so much, Dr. Paul, for inviting me here to this event. Obviously, we've all had our horror stories when it came to the mandate starting back in March, and the tavern and myself throughout the 3 decades I've been in this business has always been employee oriented. And when all this started, my whole goal was to make payroll. And we did everything we possibly could do to make payroll. And what was really challenging with us in the beginning